Hello and welcome into the Not All There podcast. I am your host, Chad, and I'd like to wish you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. We have made it all to the beginning of the holiday season. Time to break out the sweatpants. Time to buy a little extra Alka-Seltzer and Tylenol and hunker down because it is on from here until, I don't know, the middle of January, it seems, or the Super Bowl, I guess, at this point. But yeah, man, it was always a wild and interesting time for me when I was drinking during this time of the year. I guess it really wasn't like any other time in particular, but well, you know, you can get away with it a little more publicly. You don't have to try and sneak things so much because everybody's having a good time this time of the year, right? But when I was first getting sober, it was a little stressful for me because I was unsure of myself. I wasn't sure who I was. And now that I didn't have alcohol to create this identity for me, I was feeling very vulnerable and kind of scared and nervous and anxious because, you know, there's things going on. There's holiday parties, there's family gatherings, and you know, it can be a little intense. But things that I have learned, and I've been, you know, mentioning this quite a few times, like if you are at a party, office party, a family gathering with friends, what have you, and you're feeling that unease creep up, you know, you can sneak off to the bathroom, close the door, lock it, just give yourself some time, catch your breath, calm down. And if you feel like you can't really get to where you need to be to feel, you know, safe and comfortable, then it's okay to leave. You know, just say, hey, look, I'm not feeling well. Thanks for, you know, inviting me over. I'm sorry, but I got to bail. I'll catch up with you later. That's all you have to do. And if you do find yourself in a party environment and there's a bar, you know, you can ask for the bartender for a tonic with lime and a rocks glass, and it looks like you got a cocktail. You can make one of those maybe at your friend's house, or, you know, fuck it, just tell people you're not drinking. That's okay too, because, you know, whatever, it's not their business. So these are just little helpful suggestions for those of you who might feel challenged with sobriety during this time of the year. You can try that, and, you know, fuck it, if you need to soothe yourself, have that extra piece of cake, have that extra piece of fudge. Just no nuts in the fudge, and no raisins in the goddamn bread pudding. Not that that's really a thing around the holiday season, but I just had to put that out there. Those who like raisins in their bread pudding, I don't know. I'm not so sure I can trust you. Okay, that was a joke. Maybe. Anyway, moving along here. My friend Sean is the guest today. And, you know, I was having audio issues again. So it's not that it's terrible. It's just, you know, me, I you know, that whole perfectionism thing, I'd like it to sound great, but I don't know, it's a little garbly, but it's still really good. And Sean's fucking awesome. He's great. He is a no bullshit kind of guy. He's you know, worked on his sobriety for a long time, in fits and starts. And he's doing the deed now, man. It's great. And he's got a really fun outlook on everything. The way the guy's brain works is it is something, man. And, you know, regarding the audio quality, it might be that, like, you know, 1,000-watt smile the guy has. It may have fried the microphones. I don't know. But anyway, I've been, you know, fixing a lot of these podcasts tonight, trying to get everything correct, and I'm feeling a little loopy at the moment, but I wanted to get this one done. This one's going to be up Thanksgiving morning, and a little extra for y'all out there. You can take this with you on your morning walk, your pre-feast walk or run or whatever you're doing, just take me and Sean with you. We'll be good company for you. All right. And for those that have been listening, thank you so much for your support. And I have gotten a lot of really special and meaningful feedback from people. And it's, I don't even know what to say about it. It's very special, and it is a, something that I'm working at, but I do have challenges accepting praise from people and compliments, and I'm doing my best to just accept it and let it work its way in, and not be so freaked out by it. So thank you for everybody and all their nice things. I love you very much for saying that. It really does mean a lot, and I'm proud of what we, you know, me and all of you, we're doing here with this. And yeah, let's keep it up. Let's help some people out by spreading the word, maybe taking a nugget or two of information or suggestions from my ramblings and my conversations with friends about sobriety and life, living life on life's terms while you're sober. Okay. I'm going to go brush my teeth and go to bed. You all enjoy Sean. He's awesome. You're going to like this one. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe and take care of yourself. Be kind. And you're not alone, because me and all my crazy friends are here. Enjoy.
We're going to start with Cuckoo's Nest. All right.
Well, hey, Doc, when you got that. She said she was 18. Did you know that scene? The doctor was a real doctor, and Jack Nicholson was like acting like the character, but he was trying to do like a normal intake with him, and so that back and forth is like real.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's unscripted.
One of the greats ever.
Oh my God. I can't wait to show my kids, but they're going to be like, what the fuck is this? You'll never think of Juicy Fruit the same way again. All right. I think this sounds you sound okay over there?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Good. All right. Let me, oh, there we are. Okay. Well, here we are. Let's make some magic happen.
All right.
So where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What happened?
I'm from Boston, grew up in Boston. Grew up there until I think 29. I moved to Texas, go to grad school, go to business school.
Okay.
Hook 'em horns at the University of Texas, Austin. And from there, moved to Minnesota. Spent 20 years in Minnesota. And and then came here for a job. And have been here, 13, 14 years.
Okay. So, what was the family like in Boston? What now? Are you like Irish Boston? What kind of Boston are you?
Yeah, painfully Irish Catholic Boston. I say I grew up in South Boston. I grew up around South Boston. I grew up in Dorchester, Quincy, the South Shore, that sort of area. South Boston's a little bit more identifiable. It's interesting because my family is a little different, right? I am one of 5.
Okay.
And my brothers and sisters were freshman through senior in high school, 1, 2, 3, 4, when I was born.
Oh.
Yeah, so my mother had 4 kids when she was 22 and me when she was like 37.
Shit. So you had like the run of the house then.
Yeah, and it was a bizarre combination of, like having 6 parents and also 6 much older delinquent friends. They were crazy. They were crazy. And
was there a bar in the family? Did you guys own a bar or just had a bar you hung out?
We, my dad and ultimately my mom ran it and we all worked in it. But my dad fell into the circumstance where we had this bar in North Quincy, which, Dorchester, South Boston, North Quincy, all that area is all super Irish Catholic. And, you're talking about 1978. So, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, and those guys were down the street. And so anyway, I grew up in the family bar. It was a bar restaurant, and it was it was a neighborhood place. It was cops, firemen, leg breakers, loan sharks,
Sure.
International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I mean, it was the neighborhood. And, my father used to refer to it as the Cops and Robbers Bar because, we had some
Everybody was
interesting
off
rules,
duty.
right? No guns, no collections.
Okay.
And, it's just kind of how it rolled.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What was the name of it?
It was Rosie's, my mother's name. Rosie. Nice rose on the logo.
Of course, yeah.
Very family. But yeah, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and literally from eggs at 5 o'clock in the morning till we close at 12 or 1.
Oh my God. How long did you guys do that for?
Long time, 22 years. I was in and out of it. Like I said, I worked there as a kid. There was a point at which I came back and ran it day to day. Went to rehab while I was running it. Yeah.
Was that number one rehab? Which
I only went once. I only went once. But yeah, I think I checked in 93. That was the bar and restaurant business in Boston in the 80s and 90s was 80s and early 90s, late 70s even. Was fueled by a fair number of substances, and it ran on diesel, and so it was entirely normal to drink whenever. Mm-hmm. You had cops come in finishing a shift, to come in and drink at 7 o'clock in the morning because they just finished working. So time and space were sort of irrelevant to what you did and when you did it and how you did it, and in that group of people, everyone was alcoholics. Some didn't drink, and some did. But I mean, literally, we had tons of guys who hung around the bar who didn't drink anymore. Yeah, they play cards and drink coffee.
Because it's
not unusual,
right? Because it's the identity part of it, right? Like okay, I got to kick the booze, but I'm still Yeah,
it's funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's a little off topic, but we're talking about this thing that discussed the idea of you need 3 places, right? So you have home, you have work, and then you have the third place.
Right.
And for tons of these guys, this was the third place, right? It was the country club.
The church.
Yeah. Yeah. So
as far as like, identity of, because that's one thing that I've noticed a lot about in my recovery is that alcohol really was like my identity. It's what it kind of, I didn't really fit in, didn't really know what I was, this nice kid who made a lot of friends, but just felt outsider and started, had that first taste of alcohol and was like, oh yeah, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be. And then I became like this persona that like, oh yeah, man, have Chad come over, give him a few beers, and we're gonna let him go. And so that was like the identity. That's what I was. And growing up in like the bar business, the alcohol business, was that just sort of like, at a young age where you're like, yeah, that's what we do. We booze.
Yeah, completely. And it's funny because there was a point at which I was sober running that business, and you started to see it that people become an exaggerated version of themselves after about 3 cocktails, right? And and shit just gets louder, and everything comes out, exponentially. Uh-huh. And I thought that's what was great about booze, right? Was that it let all of those insecurities fade away, and as everyone said, I got funnier, I got better looking, I got all of those things. And it was true for an awful lot of people. And so part of the reason I say that was doing that sober, that was the other thing. And it was a learning for me that stuck with me, whether I was sober or not, was to watch somebody come in who was a relatively nice guy and, 45 minutes a little louder and a little funnier, and an hour and a half, you're just an asshole.
Right. Right.
And go right through that continuum to, and now it's time for you to leave.
Hey, fuck you.
And now you're banned, right? You don't even hear that anymore, banned.
Yeah, no, you don't.
People routinely banned.
Yeah, what is it, 86 banned, whatever.
You're 86 for the next month, Chad. See it. You're out. And that was just, you're going to the bar? I can't go. I got another 17 days before I can,
Tell Rosie I said hi.
Yeah. I mean, and that was the other culture. It was I'm just picturing it in my mind on the wall. There's probably 40 bar tabs on the wall with a thumbtack in it.
Yeah.
Right? And because, when you get paid, you clear your tab. And, and your 86 guys went up and the tab. Oh, sorry, you're $200 and you're done. You got to clear the tab before you drink anymore. And that was normal, right? And it still seems completely normal to me.
I mean, alcoholism is like run on credit most of the time.
Well, and on barter too. I mean, I can't tell you how much. I actually once traded, when I moved to Texas, the guy, one of my regulars, owned a local van, like Allied Van Lines franchise. And I traded a $4,000 bar tab for him to move me. And it was beautiful because this way, his wife had no idea what he was burning at the bar. Yeah. And it cost me probably $1,200 in liquor, for his $4,000 bar tab.
Oh my God.
So it's win-win. It's beautiful.
Shit. Maybe we should get back to that somehow. So, I mean, when did you start your road with the booze? When did that kick in? Was it early for you?
Yeah, we started, like I said, there was booze around. It's funny. It's not like I ever had trouble getting liquor. I had the keys to, to 100 cases of 100 cases of beer at all times. So that was never a problem. What we would, I was kind of the go-to guy on some level for that. So we would go out in the woods, light a bonfire with 30 guys and however many girls we could get to show up. And, it'd just be a complete and utter shit show.
Oh my God. There's always woods. There's always a fire.
Yeah. And actually, that's the funny thing. Right in the middle of the city of Boston, there was actually a thing called the Metropolitan District Commission, which is it's where you dump the bodies. Okay. A lot of cruise action going on there. And then us running around the woods, right on the fire roads.
But everybody just sort of accepted everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it was like
you see guys pull up at a car with a trunk popped open, and you just look over there.
Hey, these guys are busy. We should probably move.
They're working. Let's move up that way a little bit. Oh my.
It was crazy.
So, I heard you once say that you have more 30-day chips. What was it? How was it? How many 30-day
30-day chips to start a casino?
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
Well, and part of that goes to young, right? So I got popped on a little misadventure at 15 or 16 years old. And so we had an attorney. He was a guy that came into the bar. We had an attorney, quote unquote, business attorney. Was a friend of my mother's. And I got involved in a situation and, had 8 or 10 points of consideration with the state of Massachusetts that they wanted to discuss. And
just 8 or 10.
Yeah. And so Jim represented me. And Jim was like 40 years sober in 1980.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So he was like with the old boys.
Early. And so the condition that he worked out for me was, he's addressing the judge in the course of this, and he's, these young men, and we should do, give them a second chance, blah, blah, blah. And what he did was he cut a deal where these concerns on the part of the state were continued without finding for 12 months on the condition that I attend 2 AA meetings a week for a year, which was a great deal.
Yeah, 15, right?
Yeah, I think I was just about to turn 16.
All right, so 2 nights a week, basically.
Right, and, it's an hour. And the boys will pick you up when it's over, and, we'll be off and do what we're doing. But what it did was it showed me really early. So the first time I quit drinking on my own and started to go to a few meetings after that was probably, I had just left college and just started working. I was 22. And so, not drink for a while and pick up a couple chips and then, this probably is, maybe a couple of drinks. And, in and out and in and out and in and out. And so accrued a lot that way. And then at about 26, as I said, that's 26 or 7, went away for 30 days, got sober, stayed sober for not quite 10 years.
Wow. Okay, yeah. So like to your mid-30s?
Yeah, so I got sober and got my act together.
Did you have a family or anything during that?
I created one in the course of it, right? So sobered up, went to grad school, got married, had two kids, started a career that's still the career I'm largely involved in today. And then somewhere along the line, I've said this in various circumstances, I got busy, and I got important, and I got drunk, in that order. And so what I started doing was this road warrior thing. I do business travel, right? And I'm like, oh, you're off. Yeah. I still get the heebie-jeebies in airports. But so, and that's what I was trying to do, is this controlled drinking.
Right.
That just crept up over time.
When you're on the road,
right?
No holds barred. No one's going to know.
Yeah.
Yep. I got it under control.
And so then so ultimately that doesn't land well. And, my ex-wife figures out like, something ain't right here. You need to go back to those meetings. Remember when we met and you were sober? And yeah. So anyway, and when I did that for 5, 6, 7 years.
Oh, shit, really?
Yeah. So, I'd get 30 days, 60 days. I'm sure I had a year in there more than once. And then I'd go out, and I'd go out for a little while, a longer while, a lot of sneaking around.
Yeah.
But, that word progression is just the thing that's in there, right?
Because when you have a, goddamn chair. Soon we'll upgrade the equipment here.
The setup is lovely, but I'm going to tell you right now, there are a few people that I'm sure are going to ask to come here for whom this chair will be insufficient.
I agree. Yeah, and we won't off mic. We'll mention names. And, in particular, he probably will come next week. So
sure.
We know what we're talking about.
We need a furniture consideration in front of that.
We do. The progression, right? I didn't really stop that much. But before we moved out here, we left Oregon in the summer of 2012. And when we left Oregon, I had just fucking nosedived. And Nancy and I agreed that, okay, we'll take a break. We'll take like a 6-month break. We, meaning, me, takes a 6-month break. And then we'll reassess after the 6 months, which we did. By that time, we had started settling in here in Chicago. And my birthday came up, and it was decided, like, yeah, hey, on your birthday, go back to it. So I had a couple of beers on my birthday, and then, yeah, within a week, it was insane how fucking fast it comes back. Because you would think that, okay, I'm away from X, Y, or Z for a 6-month period, a year, like I'm gonna have to build back up to my tolerance, and at least with me and alcohol, you pick up right where you left off. And if it was ugly when you stopped, it's ugly again. Like within a couple of days, you're right back at it. And to do that over and over and over, you must have been a prick to be around.
Well, that hasn't changed. It's still actually true. But it's a little more predictable now. Yeah, well, and the progression thing is so bizarre, right? Because like I said, I'd been hanging around this thing since I was 15, 16 years old, and now I'm 36 or 7 years old. And then you have that experience, you go, oh, that's what they meant by progression.
Yeah.
You mean a geometric expansion in my inability to control my drinking. All right, this is a non-linear progression.
Did you get that, everybody?
This shit is mushroom cloud serious.
Yes, it is.
Right?
It is.
And the other part that I experienced in there that was not as thoroughly covered in the brochure was was the unpredictability of it. You're like, I'm going to drink a fifth of vodka, and I'm not sure this is having any effect, or I'm going to have 2 drinks and black out for 48 hours.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah,
sometimes the predictability just completely went away.
I've heard countless stories of people at the end, right, when they finally hit their bottom, what that looked like. A lot of perception with addiction and people that hit their bottoms. It's usually I woke up in the morning in my own bed covered in blood that wasn't mine, and then I decided it was time to stop drinking. And sometimes though, it's like I had 2 beers, I blacked out, puked, and then it's this. Yeah, I have had that before. Like at the end, for me, I was hooked on like brandy. Brandy was my thing, and I could whack down a 5th of brandy during the workday and just be like, nothing was wrong. Brandy.
Wow.
I know. E&J.
Nice choice.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I was on the L several years ago.
Because that stuff doesn't smell at all. So that's a great choice. Yeah.
You could fucking strip nail polish off of that stuff. But I was on the L. The kids were young, so I was very early in sobriety, maybe a year, maybe. And we, wherever we were going, this guy gets on. He's got the stereotypical, black plastic bag, like he'd come from the liquor store, and he reaches in and he pulls out like a quart bottle of Pepsi, and then he pulls out a pint of E&J brandy. And I was like, oh, he's going to, do a little mix. I was like, I leaned over to Nancy. I'm like, watch this guy. He's going somewhere like a party. He's got a family thing that he's prepping for.
Pre-game.
Yeah. Pre-game and didn't give a shit about who was watching. And she's like, really? And so he takes the brandy and unscrews it and just sucks down the pint. And then takes the Pepsi, just a little wet the beak.
Rinse? Yeah.
Wet the beak. And Nancy was like, oh my God. And I was like, oh yeah, like this dude knows what he's doing. There's a professional at work. Nice. But yeah, when you're really, really getting down to it, when you're in it, that's the weird, messy part of at least alcoholism, but most addiction is that you don't know. Like you can drink a case of beer and really not feel anything except you got to piss all the time, or you could have 1 beer and throw up and black out. You've wrecked your body so fucking much at that point. You really don't know. But
yeah, that's where your metabolism is just.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's your liver's swollen.
I mean, you're talking with the serious drinkers when they blow a number, on a breathalyzer.
Yeah.
Would kill anybody else,
yeah.
Right? You've got a liver that's metabolizing in a wholly different way.
Wholly different way. And they can have a normal conversation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 0.24, and you want me to do your tax return? I'll do it.
Yeah. Right now. So, how many deductions? Did you ever get popped for DUI, DWI, whatever they call it?
Couple, 3-4 times.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
We won't be going to Canada during the course of this conversation. Which is a little awkward if you're in charge of Canada. So let me just tell you.
Okay. Noted. No trips to Canada allowed. So, like, what was it that took finally for you?
It's a great question. We were talking about somebody earlier that we both know from the program.
Yeah.
I think so. One of the things that was really problematic for me is that I get sober for a while. Things will go well. Like I clean up nice. Right. Life comes together. The job goes okay. Mm-hmm. People go okay. things are good, and then you start sneaking and sipping, and then boom, the progression hits, and the wheels come off, and you gotta rebuild. And I think I had gotten to a point where I realized that like there's no more rebuilding after this. Like we're pretty much scorched earth, and the unpredictability and just the brokenness of it all. Sadly, it's funny because if people talk about their last drink or something, and it was just such a lame, whimpering finish, where I didn't go back to rehab. I just weaned myself off, but I had over the course of a couple of days had to limp through with a few drinks to just get through the physiological issue, and got back to meetings, started in again, and like I had mentioned earlier, started in with someone we both know from the area, who took me through from the get-go, but was deadly serious about, are you done? Are you finished?
He does not mince words.
No.
He does not fuck around.
And it was odd because I had left this area sober, taking a job in another city, had actually picked up a friend of his, a guy he'd gotten sober with years before, as a sponsor out there, and it just didn't go right. I mean, the wheels completely came off in this new city, in this new role, and so when I came back, though, the facts were plain and simple and clear to everyone, right? There was no getting around there was no retelling the story. The story was pretty well documented. And so anyway, at that point, I think it just finally was clear to me that I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's funny, because over the years, so many times you've seen somebody come back and do I'm back, and it's different this time. And the thought has always been in the back of my head of, sure it is.
Well, it's because we're assholes. We're judgmental assholes. Yeah.
But it really is. And I think, when I look backwards, I realize I never, to throw the words around, right? The idea of surrender.
Right. Right. What's that spiritual side of it? The surrendering to something other than yourself is like a spiritual concept. And like, I'm going to surrender to the fact that I can't drink alcohol. Like, what? Fuck you. No. Yeah, I mean,
rehab is for quitters is a sense that makes a lot of sense to me, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, something finally clicked. There was this finally the sense of, there's no more bullshitting your way through this. There's no more laying low. I mean, I've laid low for a decade thinking, that I had something beat, and realizing there's nothing to beat here. It is what it is. And there's no amount of you're just never going to get fixed. You're never, and frankly, the other piece I think though was that through that discussion of progression too, there was really nothing left in it for me. Like, we all talk about chasing that sort of mythical
the first high or whatever.
Right,
yeah.
The just right spot.
Right.
Where all is well and nothing bad has happened yet.
And when you do happen to find it for the slightest moment, you're like, you know what I need right now? Tequila. And it's gone.
and so, it was so long since anything like that happened, right? Yeah. There was misery followed by a blackout followed by misery, right? So it was the misery that you're drunk or the misery that you're sober, but it was nothing but misery.
Right. It was right.
And I think I just finally copped to the reality of that. And I had the time, I did a lot of self-important stuff, right? So I always made the job or the family or the thing, like the reason I can't focus on that. And none of those things were an encumbrance to me any longer.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I wonder why that was.
There was no
Care to expound on that?
Yeah, there was none of the family that was interested in seeing or talking to me or commiserating with me or being sympathetic to me in any form or fashion.
Sure, Dad.
My girls were just like, fuck off. And they were done with me. My significant other was done with me. And certainly the job was done with me. And, that was going to take a while to sort out. So, I had the time to spend on getting sober for real, and spend a lot of time with, as I said, our mutual acquaintance.
The Oracle.
And just went through the numbers one by one with, somebody who I could not bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of us are, but I am certainly, consider myself a master bullshitter.
Oh, dude, that's why you and I get along.
And, there's just no getting one past a goalie on that shit.
No, there isn't. I think if you and I were together out there, we would have found a lot of trouble. And so, I had that whole idea of finally surrendering. Like I said, that word is really loaded for me. And it goes back to that whole idea of, the one thing I was taught was never surrender. Right.
I mean, from a punk ass kid, I will break your fist with my face, all that is necessary.
Yeah, exactly. No matter how wrong I am.
Yeah.
I will beat the living shit out of. I will kill you to prove how wrong I am not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, it was just over. Dude, the jig was up. And like I said, the right people in the right circumstance, in the right time. Yeah. And the other part is that I just, it's interesting, right? Because we've got we had a mutual friend. And, I think that over periods of sobriety in my life, I have never come to terms with okay, I'm seriously sober, and now I need to reorient what's important to me in my life.
Right.
And what does that mean?
Right. It's getting to the point where you give up the booze or drugs or whatever it is that's hard. It's like emotionally painful. Like there's a lot of like collateral damage along the way, depending on how long your run is. Mine was, I had a lot of mess to clean up. It sounds like you did too. Mm-hmm. And so you give up the booze, you start repairing these relationships any way that you can. But then you look at like, okay, well now that I don't crave the stuff anymore. I seem to have, acquired some footing in these relationships. Now what the fuck do I do?
Exactly.
And that's, I've mentioned this to you and to a lot of people, and that's like the hope and point of what these conversations are, is like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of ways to get sober. In other words, there's a lot of ways to get you off of whatever it is that's causing you all this trouble, the anguish, the damage in your life and in your relationships, and to get you like, okay, you're clean, you're off of that, you're starting to repair these relationships, you're good. Now just do this for the rest of your life. Well, how do I do that? You're just going to have to figure that out.
Well, and that's the other part of it too, is I think that how to have relationships.
Yes.
And what is a relationship is the other part. As I said,
a relationship that you don't control the perception of.
Well, that isn't a transaction.
Yeah. There you right? Exactly. Right.
Because it's funny, at this point in my sobriety in my life, I quite literally, just because of what I've done for a living and, having moved around a few places and done a few other things, I know a lot of people. I mean, there are a lot of people that I could call up and say, hey, how are you? And they would know exactly who I am. And we haven't talked in a long time. But we don't have a relationship. We interacted at some point in time to some end. And so here's my point is at this point in my life, I have two sets of people, particularly men, that are, guys I knew when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That, we lived through some stuff together, and neither one of us died because a lot of them did. Right? So,
yes, they did.
To have that relationship, they have to be alive still. And those are guys I'm tight with. And then, frankly, the people from right now through this little organization that I have a very close relationship with. And in between those two things is not a lot, right? There's a lot of people I've met and known,
yes,
and a lot of people that I have good relations with, but they're not relationships,
right?
They're people I know.
They're people they're neighbors. There's like transactions. Like I we've got this Thursday night thing that I started a while ago. That's really turned into something quite special. I'm really like very happy with it.
And well, you should be.
Yeah, it's mind-blowingly cool, and like it's helping a lot of people. But I've done a lot of youth coaching. My kids are really into sports, and I feel like this responsibility to them as a sober dad to involve myself in fun aspects. Like, yeah, you know what? Do I know how to coach baseball? Fuck no. Am I going to coach baseball? I'll coach till the fucking cows come home. And I coached a bunch of football games this weekend. So my voice is kind of shot. I was out coaching a football game a couple hours ago. But what it's doing is it's creating these unique bonds and memories with my kids that, inevitably when they reach that part where they want to start, creating their own dependence and craving it and seeking it, I will feel okay that like, well, it's kind of a bummer because I like hanging out with you, but I'm not going to feel like I missed, like, oh my God, did they go and I missed these opportunities, and that is something that I'm grateful for about sobriety. But to get to that point, like, it's one thing, I guess, for us to sit and be like, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. You bet. I'm an alcoholic, and, textbook alcoholic. You can read the definition of an alcoholic. And I'm sober now. And people will be like, oh, that's great. That's great. Wow. Congratulations. It's like, yeah, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in my life. I feel like at least when I was out there drinking, right, I knew I was fucking up. I knew what I was up to. Okay. It kind of created this person that I am, and it affected my relationships. Things were a little more somewhat predictable on the day to day. But now that you take all of that away, and I am left with this this version of myself that I don't know, what the fuck am I supposed to do with it?
Right.
And Jesus Christ, in sobriety, I feel like I fucked up more than I did when I was drinking. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, and now you notice, and now you care, and now it matters, right? Because then it didn't. I mean, the there's a lot of language in the big book that is very over the top about it, a total rearranging and those kinds of things that it's taken this long for me to go, oh no, that's actually serious. Like a complete psychic change, a complete rearranging, to drive to the specific element of what's important. I'm very glad for you that you have that circumstance with your kids, and, can go and be, I'm sure, just a terrible coach.
I just got my ass handed to me 2 weeks in a row.
But you're there.
I'm there. I'm doing it.
And, and that is because, I don't like to think about it all that much, but I wasn't there a lot.
Yeah.
And there is, there is stuff I cannot undo. There is time I cannot unmiss. And it leaves a mark. It definitely leaves a mark. And
how old are your girls now?
So they are 28 and 25. And
that's a fun age.
Yeah, and they're all grown up, and they're very smart, and they are not afraid to hold other people accountable for their actions, present or past.
I wonder where they got that from.
Yeah, and so. And there's some odd things there as well because, I heard you say it in one of the previous discussions where, oh, so your kids, never saw you drinking. And that's a beautiful thing. I'm like, mine did.
Yeah.
But what's odd is my significant other's kids haven't.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Right. And so there's a whole different set of relationships there that,
they're essentially like your stepchildren.
Yeah, very much. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And they're very much my stepchildren. I mean, I do really think of them as my kids. And so that gets a little loaded with like, well, you got the ugly part and you didn't get the ugly part, and how does that all land in here?
Well, let me tell you about my dad, who he really is.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, he's wonderful, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, let me tell you about my 7th birthday party. He showed up drunk on a donkey. I mean,
wait, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and that's one of the bizarre things as well is, and it's, it's self-effacing, but I hesitate to admit this. I mean, I certainly have some not proud moments in there, but, the weird part, here's the weirdness of rationalization, right? Which is compared to my dad.
Oh, yeah. The measuring stick. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fucking leave it beaver time.
Yeah,
right?
You're like, oh, well, I'm sorry that I showed up at your 7th birthday party drunk on a donkey. At least I showed up and had a ride. Okay.
I mean, I literally can recall. God, here, I'll tell this story. So the old man. So I was teaching Catholic high school. I was like 22 years old.
Right out of school.
Yeah, right out of college. Okay. And I'm putting on a production of Grease, which is interesting given that I know absolutely nothing about musical theater.
I was going to say, I didn't realize you were
it should be as surprising as it sounds because that is not my bag. But so anyway, I am in desperate need of a golf cart because I need it for this scene. And, I won't get too far into that. But I got like 40 kids around me. We are, down to go time on this thing. And my old man is responsible for bringing me a golf cart. And, I'm calling him. Look, where the fuck is this golf cart? I need this golf cart. He shows up. He drives up from Boston to New Hampshire with a golf cart in the back of a pickup truck and pulls into the parking lot of the high school. There's like 30 kids there. And he pours out of the cab of this pickup truck absolutely fucking blotto. Right? And proceeds to lace into me about what a fucking idiot I am.
Oh no!
For about 20 minutes, and
oh my god!
So again, it's no excuse, but on some level, the algebra I'm doing in my head is why I never did that shit, right? So
exactly. When you have those examples, like my brother's 9 years older than I am, and he had like really really hard luck with substances.
Yeah,
and I haven't talked to him in like 5 years, so I don't know if he could never really string it together. So what I'm getting at is that he was fucking up all the time, doing all kinds of crazy shit, getting in wrecks, walking through sliding glass doors, raising all kinds of hell. And I thought, well, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm cool. I'm not doing that. But at one point I was like, oh shit, I think I might be right at where he was. And then soon after I was doing stuff that like nobody was doing. But you don't think about the people that you're with in your life. They don't have that measuring stick.
That shit's completely irrelevant to them.
They're like, no, I don't care what your dad did.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, fell asleep on the couch.
Yeah.
And clearly not the greatest of shape. Is shit behavior.
Yeah.
It does not matter. There's the measure of how that compares to, some bad episode of Shameless is not relevant. I couldn't watch it. But that's not relevant.
No.
But it's an easy rationalization.
It is. Right? It is. It was so easy to rationalize. And speaking of rationalization, how's that manifest now that you are you're a sober man?
Well, yeah. It's interesting because honesty is that's a concept I've really had to learn over.
Yeah.
piss on that concept for 40 or 50 years, and it becomes meaningless, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's funny now as you get further into sponsorship. Again, a concept that a sponsor introduced to me, but so I'll back up to go forward here for a second in that, like, problem solving, diagnosis, analysis, action plan to resolve circumstance is sort of what I spend a lot of my time doing, right? And I'm pretty good at it. But in relation to my own life, I am absolute horseshit, right? Like, I can solve some other business related problem pretty well. I can't find my way out of a wet paper bag in terms of managing my own life on that, right?
Right.
And so anyway, the concept that becomes important there is the committee, right? So everybody talks about the committee that's in their head, which is the half a dozen crazy people that are talking in your ear all the time. Can only be countermanded by what I have is a small and close group of people with whom I discuss the circumstance of the situation and what the potential actions are if necessary at all. And most of the time, action is not necessary at all. And what I should do about it. And the other thing that becomes a necessity out of that is there needs to be, we're talking about a lead not long ago, and because the God thing is so messy and amorphous, and what does that mean? For me, what that's become to mean is God is in the pause, like,
the quiet,
from I don't know, Newton's third law, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Is not actually true if you can put a pause in between those two things. And that's where all this God stuff becomes relevant for me is there does not have to be an immediate opposite equal reaction, the microsecond after you said or did what you did. In fact, there can be a long pause. There is no need to respond. And we can take this topic to committee. Right. And that's probably the biggest difference for me in AA and in getting sober and in how this thing lands in my life in a way that is not, I didn't drink today, and gets to the, I wasn't an asshole today.
Right. Because that's the big thing. Is, yesterday I was coaching this football game for a bunch of fifth grade flag football kids, and the district decided to take over the organization of all the local elementary schools and set up a flag football season for them. And last year, I think the schools independently set it up and then coordinated with all the other schools in the area, and it seemed to go pretty smooth, but somehow the district wanted to take it over, and they kind of fucked it up. Anyway, we ended up playing the same team 3 weeks in a row, and they just absolutely fucking destroyed us. And
you get to repeat that 3 times.
3 weeks in a row.
Nice.
Now, yesterday.
And how did that make you feel?
Well, we're getting there. We're getting there. So yesterday was the quote unquote playoff game against this team, and it was pretty evident right away that it was going to happen again. Right now, I have been around sports long enough. I've coached sports long enough that, okay, you're going to get your ass kicked sometimes, and you just accept it. You coach it on, you coach along, hoping you get something positive that happens that you can kind of hang your hat on. But, otherwise you're just going to get thrashed, and then you keep it moving. But when you're getting thrashed and they're letting you know that they're thrashing you, and we're talking about like 10 and 11-year-olds. Now, I don't have a problem with the kids doing that because they're kids. They only do what they're told. And like, okay, so you're learning this from your coach, and your coach is running up the score. And every time you score a touchdown or make a play, you have this other coach on the sideline that runs out and he does these laps around everybody in celebration, right? And it's like, okay, you know what? That's fine. That's how they're going to do their thing. The clock is running and we're going to be out of here real soon. And I'm going to shake his hand and, keep it moving. And inside I'm like kind of burning. And then at the end of the game, we had one play, like, and we're gonna, try and throw a Hail Mary or whatever, and they send this kid into rush, and he takes out our quarterback, and as he does it, he punches him in the balls, and our kid's laying on the ground just like writhing in pain, and he's crying, and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, he punched me in the balls, and boom, I started walking toward the other team, and everybody now, when there's an injured player, coaches and players, everybody takes a knee, right? A sign of respect, solidarity. Well, they're all on a knee, and I go over there like fucking drill sergeant. I don't know what kind of team you're running here. It was the last play of the game. You've been running up the score, and then you decide to punch my guy in the balls at the end of the game? No way. I mean, I was pointing and back and forth, and, I had one of these guys, one of the refs that run this place, and he was standing next to me. He was nodding, like, "Come on, guys." But this is to go to, like, that like fucked up the rest of my night, and I couldn't even really get to sleep after it, because it was like, I felt this need to sort of like, stick up for our kids, like, you guys beat up on, like, half my team doesn't know how to play football. It's an elementary school football team. They wanted to try it out, and you guys decided to just like smack us around and let us know it, and then you end it that way. And it kind of fucked me up, because it was like, did I go too far? Should I have let that upset me as much as I did? Did I become that asshole, after? And, I'm saying all of this is because it's like, it's tricky. When is our natural asshole reaction, like legitimate? The other night we were talking about, road rage and almost getting run over, and, challenging people to get out of the car and fight in the middle of the street because, they almost ran you over and nothing happened. That's not a good one. But if somebody truly is like crossing a line, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted. Like, did I go too far? I don't know if I did, and
that's, and so, I mean, right. The justifiable anger being the dubious luxury of other men, right?
Right. I can't do that, because I will fucking rip your face off.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you didn't, though, right? Because the fact that you didn't drill the guy in the forehead is a huge win. I mean, that circumstance that you described,
yeah,
is remarkable. The committee in my head right now is going, well, why don't we leave here now?
Oh, I know where to find him.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what's in my head. And,
in fact, I saw that coach again this morning, and I was like, oh my god. Anyway.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think that there is and that's the horrible thing about what you're saying too. In all of that is what he's doing to those kids. I mean, what he's teaching those kids.
Right. And so he is, he's creating, these little bastards. These kids are going to have this ego, and maybe one of them will grow up, have a substance abuse problem, and then they clear that. They're working on themselves, but they're still this asshole from this learned behavior, right? Yeah. That we got.
And by the way, I'm completely capable of the behavior that you described on his book, right?
Oh yeah,
because running up the score, is absolutely within my MO.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, hey, I'm not gonna lie that I wouldn't have done it. There's just 3 games in a row. But the big picture I'm trying to get at here is that we as humans are raised in certain environments, and we learn these behaviors through the people that raise us, whether it's our parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever that we learn to be ourselves through these learned behaviors. And you know, if you start drinking or using early enough, you kind of stunt this like emotional development of yourself, right? So you have these learned behaviors, and then you get real emotional, and these learned behaviors might be like, don't show your emotion, right? Which was mine. And so you got all this emotion inside of you, and you can't show it, and you can't cry. And if you do cry, you got to stop crying, and you carry on with that. And then you discover alcohol, which kind of takes that away, right? And then you get sober, and usually, you know, the pink cloud, everybody likes to call it, is like the first maybe few months or even few years, if you're lucky, like life is feeling pretty good. Like you're sober, you're making your amends, but at one point, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to feel like just the biggest fucking asshole, right? And then you're going to freak out like, well, am I a bad person? Like, no, you're not a bad person. You just are now having to face your emotions that you've never faced before in your life, and you're freaked out, and it makes you a dick, and you deal with it. I deal with it. So many of us deal with it that we get these emotional reactions to whatever might happen, and it freaks us out because we're feeling something that we're not comfortable with, and then we just turn into these giant dickheads. And for those of you out there that may be listening to that, you can expect it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't hit that point, right, where, you know, on some level is there's you can get sober and stay an asshole, and that's better.
It's better,
but it's not the point. And the other piece that I think, so there's the behaviors that we learn and unlearning them, and somebody pointed out this to me. It was some number of years ago, but it was a very interesting circumstance, right? Is your values, right? So
yes, values. Yes, absolutely.
I'll try and keep this brief because it's a relatively long story, but I was working in a circumstance where they valued some of the outcomes that I helped facilitate, and yet they found my methods to be wanting. And in that circumstance, the organization I was employed by thought, we'll get him a coach, and it's the corporate equivalent of a principal's office, right? So anyway, so I get this coach, and he was a really interesting dude, and here was what he said is, he goes, okay, so what are your values? What do you value? We write down this list of values, great. And then we go, let's talk about your experience. And we go back to sort of my early life experience and run through some of these experiences. And, tell me about what stands out for you. What do you remember, right? And we go through all that. And he goes, so what we have here is a list of what you want your values to be and a list of what your values actually fucking are, right? And,
oh, I like this already.
And so, what that early life experience stuff said was, here's your unspoken values. Trust nobody. Fuck them before they fuck you, right? And so on and so forth, right? So punch first and ask questions later. Sure. All of those behaviors. Where now comes the process of, so are those the values you want to have, or are those the values you were handed, and what are the values you want to have, right? And how do you get them? And it's, to me, it's kind of classic AA in the sense of, it's don't drink, go to meetings, and change everything about your life. Which is
simple. So simple.
Which is how you get from, because the first two are great. Don't drink, and, you're less likely to be incarcerated as a result of your actions. It's still possible, but less likely.
Yes.
As opposed to, no, why don't you change what you value? Yeah, one of those kids, interestingly, not long ago, played back a quote to me, which was, we're just talking about what she was going to do and blah, 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 blah. And I said, honey, it's okay. You don't have to do that or this. You can, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, there were winners, there were losers, and the score will be kept.
Oh.
That was a quote.
Sounds like you.
Yeah, right? That was a quote from me. And I'm like, oh. So there's one of those values I handed you on a silver platter that we need to unlearn. Fantastic.
Dude, self-awareness. That's a tough one, man.
Yeah.
That
The idea that I affect the people around me, was significant news to me.
Oh yeah, right.
You know.
Like, what you mean? I show up and I come home from work. I'm a little grumpy, and that affects you? Well, like, leave me the fuck alone.
Yeah, get over it. If you had the day I had,
yeah, exactly.
No, that ain't it. Yeah, that was again back to the dude I was referring to, right? He had a process for. It was a little, but it was identify the negative things in your day. And then this is actually literally what it said was, do you have a tree in your front yard? I did. Yes, I do. It's like, I want you to hang those things on that tree and leave them outside. So, I find the metaphor a little strange, but the concept is right? Of, the people in the building you're about to walk into had nothing to do with creating how you feel at the moment or why you feel that way. So why would you subject them to it? But there's the pause again. Right. There is, the car in the garage or the driveway or on the train home or whatever. There is this window in which to.
There's that space from your car to the front door, and that is where I do the most damage to myself. Is this, I don't know, 75 paces?
Right.
I can either ruin my evening and the evening of my family in that 75 paces. Or like you said, I can just pause in my mind and walk. When I get to the end of it, at the end of the pause, things usually go better.
Yeah. For me, mentally, instead of hanging those negative emotions on the tree, I bury them in the backyard like a corpse, so because that feels a little more fitting.
Well, I don't know. Maybe was Whitey Bulger around in your childhood?
I actually have been in the same room with Whitey.
No shit.
Yes, one time.
Oh my God! Did you feel it?
So interesting story. Small story. There it was a tavern, as we say, in the South Boston area, and now bars close in Massachusetts at 1:00. So about 2:30 in the morning in this bar.
Sounds about right.
Because what that means is they lock the door from the inside.
Yeah, nobody can get in. Yeah.
All of a sudden, very loud, very boisterous, very drunken barroom goes pin drop silent, and people start sliding out the doors. And what had happened is Whitey had walked in the back door and needed to talk to somebody.
Oh, shit.
And so everybody who was not that somebody very quietly just evaporated into the walls. Just.
Oh my God! Did you see him?
I saw a white head.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
As over my shoulder as I rapidly exited the area.
That's amazing.
No.
Oh Jesus. So we'll wind this thing down here soon, but it's Thanksgiving week, and what for you when you were like getting sober any number of times, you're given a shot. How was it for the holidays? Was it a white knuckle? Did you do the fake drink trick? The tonic with a lime and a rocks glass, or
it's actually that was a really good experience for me early on, getting sober while being in the bar business and having the experience of, not drinking amongst alcoholics. It doesn't really make me that uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Only, if I'm sober.
I'm at that point now. I could give a shit.
If I'm pretending to be sober, then I am sweating.
Right.
Right. If I'm playing games and pretending I'm sober and sneaking drinks, and now I've got to be in the circumstance where I have to pretend in a room full of alcohol, that shit's uncomfortable. But no, I really doesn't really bother me at all. Frankly, I don't mind. There were certain weird places, like I said, like an airport. I don't like airports.
Yeah.
For some reason, airports are like Vegas, right? There's no time, there's no space. There's just
I could go sit
anything
over there.
can happen in here.
Yeah.
And
it's like that in Canada too.
But generally, no, not within the context of the holidays. I don't, as you said, our good friend would say, the holidays, people get thirsty for a drink. I don't get real uncomfortable with them.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me much.
I actually, I don't even know. This must be my ninth holiday season sober. So by this point, yeah, I've got it kind of figured out. I know how to navigate. And, I, depending on, where I am, if I'm at a family house, like, I know where the back bathroom is. And if I need to, I'll just, grab my phone and I don't know, go back there and try and solve the Wordle for 20 minutes. I'll just disappear and reset myself. And, and I know when certain people in the family reach their limit and it gets a little sloppy and it's like, all right, I just, I can navigate those. In the beginning, for me, I think what it was is lack of self-confidence just overall has always been, it's gotten a lot better for me. But especially when I first was getting sober after I stopped drinking and was trying to really make a go of it, I was very insecure. And when I was around people who were drinking and, they'd be like, hey, you want one? And I would it would wig me out. I'd really kind of freak out. I'm like, no, I'm cool. Now most people that I'm around know that, I don't drink and whatever. It's nothing at this point. But, the holiday season for me was always kind of tough, and doing it sober was always kind of tough. But there are like tricks. Like I heard you mention that, like, when you were at a corporate company party, if you are in an area or a place where there is a bar, just go and get the tonic with a lime and a rocks glass and you're golden.
Right.
Right. Fake it. Nobody's going to give a shit. You don't even have to drink it. Just carry it around. And
but that was something somebody had to tell me, and it took me years to figure out too. Right? I mean, it can be so daunting to be in those circumstances if you don't have a strategy.
Right. Well, it's the culture, right? And maybe he's getting destigmatized a little bit more now, but I don't know, man. It's a tricky place to be. And like for those people that were trying to get sober during the fucking pandemic, I don't know how they pulled that one off. Well, shit, man.
Boy, wow, that went fast.
Yeah, we are at an hour 5. This is wonderful. Well, Sean, this is awesome, man. I'm having a blast with this. I'll have you come back. We can do part 2.
All right, I love it. This has been great. I've really enjoyed it, and you know how much you mean to me. So
yeah, likewise, man. I love you.
Love you too.
All right,
cool. See ya.
And we've made it to the end of another episode. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. It was a lot of fun. Again, insecurities about the audio quality. I'm sorry. Got to get over it, right? Jesus, man. It's a good thing I have a good therapist. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I really, really like talking with Sean. And he's got so much to talk about. Maybe I'll have him back in here for a second time and we can clean things up audio wise. Anyway, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday, however you choose to celebrate it, with friends, with family, or, just hanging out, watching football. Because, why not? Anyway, take care of yourself. Be kind and loving to others. Be kind to yourself. And always remember, you're not alone. I'm here. Take care. I'll see you next time.